Welcome to episode 2 of Crossover Contest. In this episode, we will be determining who will win in a fight between the defender of undead invasions, Peashooter, and the feathery slingshot enthusiast, Red. For this battle, we will be compositing each character, giving all officially licensed media featuring either character, with some leeway given for both, as some scaling is considered a bit contentious. For Peashooter, we will be using games, crossovers, trailers, comics, and even Chinese version exclusives. If you think that's a lot, well, it's nothing compared to the media Red will be using, including crossovers, movies, shows, games, and a ton more. So, now that we got all that out the way, let's start with just how powerful Peashooter is. During a zombie invasion, there are many things you need. You need water, food, shelter, and most importantly, a Peashooter. Originating from Bloom and Doom Industries, the Peashooter is one of the most versatile tools for combating with the undead. And while he may not look it, he's actually pretty powerful. Starting with the mainline games, the Peashooter is actually able to shoot 50 kilogram peas at zombies, which is capable of breaking tombs, chunks of ice, and arcade machines in only a few hits, which is actually consistent with what the zombies have actually been able to endure, being able to survive natural lightning. Speed is a bit more hard to figure out in the series, considering in the mainline games they don't actually move, but in the games where the plants are able to move, it should be around relativistic, scaling to magnifying grasses, projectiles, super brains, and powers such as light speed seed. However, the most impressive part about Peashooter is his different variants and his abilities that come from them. He can have multiple heads, shoot 5 peas at a time, shoot backwards and forwards, be completely overpowered, knock objects away, fire like a mortar, eat opponents, shoot fire, ice, electricity, poison, control shadows, control rocks, has genuine military and spy training, and a ton more abilities. A big question, however, is which version of Peashooter is actually the strongest? Looking at every version, the two most powerful I was able to find was the Plasma Pea from Garden Warfare and Sun Wukong Pea from Journey to the West Edition. Starting off with the Plasma Pea, his description states how his peas are actually entire universes, holding infinite timelines, and zombies and plants can shrug off the attacks like this. This level of power is actually consistent with a lot of the other plants in the series, such as Molekale and Cosmos, who can match universal to infinite power, and that's without mentioning plants such as Party Citron, who partied so hard he ripped holes in space-time. This sort of power isn't also just for the plants though, as the zombies are capable of doing similar levels of power. They're strong enough to create quasars, throw galaxies, pull telephone lines that reach into other universes, and one of the zombies, Intergalactic Warlord, is even stated to be a rival to Huge Giganticus, a zombie so large that he actually dwarfs solar systems with his size. And that's even without mentioning the main villain of the series, Dr. Zomboss, who has a tool called Travel Through Time, which has the ability to unravel all of existence just as a side effect of it being used. It isn't just the mainline games that have this level of power, but also the crossovers that the game has had, with the main one being Journey to the West. Okay, I guess there also are a few other crossovers like with Sackboy, which do give some powers, but we're mainly going to be talking about Sun Wukong. Mainly something he did in his legend, where he was able to leap to the edge of the universe in a very short amount of time, where he then proceeded to write his name and then a peed on his hand. Looking at Peashooter's stats and abilities, you can see just how much he truly has. He's able to control elements alongside candy, bees, berries, rocks, and plasma. He can transform, fly, duplicate heads and limbs, shoot lasers, summon meteors, force fields, and even other plants via the use of cards. He can make imagination into reality and come back to life, while also being able to boost his power, and if that doesn't work, he can actually stop opponents permanently in time. But there's one item that Peashooter has that I should probably mention, as it does heavily affect this entire matchup. So let's just get it out of the way. The item I'm mentioning about is the Junkosaurus. Giving Peashooter this one item puts Peashooter in being one of the most powerful characters in all of fiction, as when piloted it allows Peashooter to fight the gnomes, beings that are so powerful that they can affect all of the 11 spatial dimensions in string theory. Now, looking back and going through all the achievements and games and abilities that Peashooter has done, has really made me realize just how big this franchise has become, from humble beginnings to becoming one of the most well-known franchises of all time. While people may not like how the franchise has been heading, Peashooter will always be a mainstay in popular culture, as he will always be the first line of defense against any zombie invasion. One calm and sunny day on Bird Island, a conflict started. Seeing the birds protecting their eggs, King Pig had enough, wanting to take them for himself, and in a simple move created one of the biggest rivalries in gaming history. However, regardless of the universe they were in, there would always be a protector for the eggs. Red. Being at odds with King Pig to protect, I guess, his eggs? I think they are. Anyway, Red would spend years of his life fighting off the pigs, and that's saying something considering how powerful they can actually get. While the basic soldier pigs can easily be popped with little to no effort, most special pigs can actually survive a lot more. They can take massive explosions that destroy their entire city, be flung to the moon and far off into the asteroid belt. Unlike most video game series, they don't really have a main power system that allows the characters to do this. They mainly use Toon Force, allowing the characters to survive being thrown around with little to no damage. This mixed with Red's anger allows him to do some strange things, such as summoning objects or destroying entire cities with little to no effort. This would all change with one of the later installments in the franchise, Angry Birds Space, where the birds would be affected by cosmic radiation, giving them incredible powers. They were fast enough to match the speeds of pig ships, which were able to travel the galaxy in seconds, and match Hector Porco, a mad scientist who created an entire mirror universe where the birds were eventually able to defeat him and destroy his newly created world. Now, this is where the level of the power of the franchise would have ended if it weren't for one thing: money. I mean, crossovers. Yeah, crossovers. And the games would have a ton of them, like far too many to go over in one episode. But we'll be going over the more important ones for this match. Starting off with Popeye, during a crossover with Angry Birds Friends, the birds would actually fight Bluto, well, as a pig, and scale to Popeye fighting King Pig, which is really impressive considering Popeye is incredibly powerful, being able to survive his entire universe being turned off. Following the success of Angry Birds Space, Star Wars would also make an entire crossover game with them, where Red would actually play two characters. Since we are compositing, I guess that would mean that he would be his own father? Compositing is weird. Anyway, the birds were able to destroy and defeat the pigs, destroying the Pig Star, which, unlike its mainline canon version, is actually powerful enough to destroy the entire universe with its energy. And one of the strangest crossovers that the franchise had ever done was actually a crossover with Iron Maiden, of all things. Yeah, the band. And during this crossover, Red would actually become Satan himself and scale to Eddie the Head, with the two being so powerful that, if they were to fought, would have shaken all of creation. Now, there is something I should probably mention for the next franchise, Puzzle and Dungeons, before I carry on with the rest of the video. Mainly that crossover chains will not be included for this match. The main reason being that, while all the characters that Red does scale to in this crossover game are around universal, multiversal to potentially outerversal depending on how you scale them. However, the main reason I don't scale any of these characters is because it would also mean that these guys would also be to that level of power, which just seems a bit silly. And this isn't a rule I'm only going to be implementing for this crossover game, but for all other crossovers, as the other ones that Red has actually do crossover with other franchises, which will also not be counted for this match. Moving on now to speed, Red actually crossed over with Sonic at one point, and actually matched him in Sonic Dash, which should mean he's actually able to scale to the character. With modern Sonic being the iteration that was used, he's generally agreed upon to be much faster than light, being around 2 × 10⁻18 meters per second, which is insanely fast. Although this number doesn't actually need to be used, considering that in the base games, not even including crossovers, Red already surpasses this level of speed. Scaling to the space pigs that I mentioned earlier, they would actually be 1.9 × 10⁻20 meters per second, which is nearly 100 times faster than what Sonic is able to do. So Sonic actually scales to Red, rather than the other way around. However, there is one crossover that does heavily affect this match, and will actually give us his highest speed scaling for this match, that being Transformers. Well, specifically IDW Transformers. You see, in this crossover, they would actually scale to Tigerhawk, a being so fast that he was able to fly from a nebula outside of the universe, being 1.5 times 10 to the 24 meters per second. And Red would actually gain one of the most impressive weapons in his entire arsenal during this crossover, that being the Egg Spark. The Egg Spark is so powerful that it can match the Matrix of Leadership that has been used to actually fight Unicron, a being so powerful that he can affect the 17 spatial dimensions in Transformers. And the pigs just sort of stumble upon the weapon, where they would actually just pick it up and after coming in contact with it, would actually turn into Transformers themselves, gaining the abilities that they would have, with one of the pigs actually using the power for himself, giving the pig the insane power I just mentioned. That would be the case if he actually knew how to use it though. Looking at Red's abilities, he has a ton, which kind of makes sense considering how many franchises he's been with and how many crossovers he's had. He's able to control the elements, make black holes, summon golden rubber duckies, survive in space, has moderate toon force, is able to conjure up items, break the fourth wall. He is able to fly, increase size, cause earthquakes, has psychic powers, summon explosions, make people dance, duplicate himself, and a ton more, including punching holes in reality and literally coming back to life. His arsenal is also pretty vast, with a ton of medieval weapons and shields, blasters, lasers, lightsabers, and a Tron bike, and of course the Egg Spark. And having such a wide arsenal kinda makes sense. Being a character who's so well known and having so many different franchises, it would be a bit surprising if he didn't have any powers to kind of go along with it. He's a character who kind of stay around forever, and while people may not like how the franchise has been heading, Red will always be an iconic character, known for decades to come, as he will always be the world's #1 angriest bird. Before we talk about who wins, comment down below if there's any match you'd like to see me cover, as it may happen as a later episode. Now, after running all the numbers, the winner is Peashooter. This was actually an incredibly close match to figure out a winner for. I constantly went back and forth on who would win, but after some time I figured out that Peashooter would be the winner. Looking at their stats, both characters are equal in strength and durability, scaling to or showcasing universal to multiversal levels of power, and further, with the only real difference being speed. However, with Peashooter being about 19 times faster, it would definitely give him the edge. Looking at their arsenal, both characters match up pretty well. They can both control the elements, summon allies, leave and control the code of their games, come back to life and fly. However, while Red has more abilities and a much wider arsenal, the power and versatility of Peashooters far exceeds anything Red has. Not to mention being faster means that Peashooter will be able to use and land the majority of his abilities without much issue, while making it near impossible for Red to use any of his. Both characters do have some good counters and win conditions though. Red has the ability to duplicate himself and has much more combat experience, while also being incredibly strong with his toon force. While Peashooter can control his body at will, make his imagination into reality, and freeze Red in time permanently. However, there are two items in this match which really do affect the outcome, and was the main reason for why the winner flipped constantly: the Junkosaurus and the Egg Spark. Both items place the characters into hyperversal levels of power, reaching 11th and 17th dimensional at their best. Some might think, well, the answer is simple then. Red has an item that can destroy and affect 17 dimensions, so he should easily beat out anything Peashooter has. This is true, however, officially in the crossover, it is shown that the birds have no idea how to use the item itself. It's even debatable if the Autobots themselves know in the original IDW canon, making it more likely that Red would just be flailing around the Egg Spark, hoping it would do something. While there is a chance he could instantly win the fight with it, even with Peashooter's most powerful weapon, he has no idea how to use it. On the other hand, the Junkosaurus has been piloted and used by the Peashooter. While he doesn't have much experience, he has at least shown the ability to know and use it at its full strength. I should also probably mention about the speed arguments for Red. I should mention this now: Red does not not scale to Chuck in speed. I do not know where people get this from. While there are scenes in the show that do show them moving around near the same speed, it is officially stated that Chuck is the fastest bird in the series. Thus, scaling any other character to him doesn't really make a lot of sense. But even if we did scale Red to this speed, Peashooter was able to react to and control the Junkosaurus in a location without time. He was literally in a timeless void and still moving. With that being the case, it would make both characters be able to match infinite to immeasurable speed, which would equalize the speed out and give Red a counter to Peashooter's time snare, but with a much larger pool of instant win moves, Peashooter would still have the edge in this battle. So, what do you think? Is there something I missed? And let's see what the next matches are.
What's up, Doc?